Have you ever found yourself wondering why it's just so easy to slip into bad habits, but starting a good one feels like pushing a boulder uphill? Well, we're going to dive into a super simple but really powerful principle that actually uses our own laziness to build better habits.
I mean, it's the classic struggle, isn't it? We all know what we should be doing, but somehow scrolling on the couch always seems to win out over, say, going to the gym or practicing that new skill. So let's actually unpack why that is.
Okay, let's just get this out in the open. You're not a bad person for being a little lazy. In fact, it's totally natural. Our brains are literally wired to save energy and take the path of least resistance. So, of course, when we're tired or stressed out, we're going to default to whatever is easiest. It's kind of like the settings on a brand new phone. It comes right out of the box with a default ringtone, default apps. Well, our lives work the same way. We have these default behaviors we just fall into without thinking. But here's the good news. Just like you can change your phone's wallpaper, you can absolutely change your life's defaults.
So the big question is, how do we do that? Well, that brings us right to the heart of this explainer, this brilliantly simple strategy called the 20-second rule. So this idea comes from a researcher named Shawn Achor, and he had a goal that I think a lot of us can probably relate to. He had this guitar, and he really wanted to practice it more often. And at the same time, he wanted to cut back on how much TV he was watching. But he hit a wall, a very common one. His good intentions just weren't enough. See, his guitar was tucked away in a closet. Now, getting it out only took, 20 seconds? But that tiny, tiny bit of effort was just enough of a barrier to stop him most nights. The TV, on the other hand, it was right there, remote on the table, always ready to go.
So, he decided to run a little experiment on himself. First, he made his good habit easier. He took that guitar out of the closet and put it on a stand right in the middle of his living room. Then he made the bad habit harder. He took the batteries out of the TV remote and put them in a drawer in a completely different room. And this little experiment perfectly illustrates the rule he came up with. The whole idea is to strategically add or remove tiny bits of friction from your life. You lower the effort it takes to start good habits, and you raise the effort it takes to start the bad ones. That 20-second shift can completely change what you do by default.
But to really get why this works so well, we need to dig into the psychology just a little bit. It all comes down to the incredible, and I mean incredible, power of just getting started.
You see, the real enemy of forming good habits is something called activation energy. That's just a fancy term for the initial oomph you need to just begin something. The more steps or friction you have to deal with before you even start, the higher the activation energy is, and the less likely you are to do it.
I mean, just think about it. Watching TV, that's almost zero activation energy. You just press a button. Reading a book that's sitting on your nightstand, pretty low. But going to the gym? Whoa, think of all the steps. You gotta find your gym clothes, pack your bag, get in the car, drive there. The activation energy is massive.
So here's the absolute key takeaway. A lot of the time, the activity itself isn't what's hard. It's the starting that stops us in our tracks. Once you get over that initial friction and you're actually doing the thing, it becomes so much easier to just keep on going.
All right, so now for the fun part. How can we actually use this in our own lives? Well, the key is to stop trying to rely on sheer willpower and start being a smart designer of your own environment instead. So you want to exercise more. Okay, let's lower that activation energy. Lay out your workout clothes the night before you go to bed. Hey, some people even sleep in them. Pack your gym bag and put it right by the front door so you literally trip over it. Every single step you remove makes it that much more likely you'll actually go. And of course, the same logic works perfectly for healthy eating. You make the bad choice harder, get the junk food out of the house. Then you make the good choice the path of least resistance. Put the healthy stuff right at eye level. Pre-cut some carrots or peppers so they're just as easy to grab as a bag of chips. And what about our biggest modern habit challenge, the phone? You can create these tiny little barriers that make a massive difference. When you need to focus, put your phone in another room. Seriously, just the act of having to get up is often enough to stop that mindless checking. Or even just moving those social media apps off your home screen adds a crucial few seconds of friction. So, as we wrap up here, let's be really clear about the big idea. This is a total shift in thinking. It's not about gritting your teeth and trying to have more willpower. It's about being smarter and designing a life where the right choices are actually the easiest choices. And hey, don't get too hung up on the number 20. You don't need to get out a stopwatch.
Sometimes the barrier you add is 5 seconds. Sometimes it's 2 minutes. The number is just a catchy name for the principle. Make small, strategic tweaks to the amount of effort required. Ultimately, the entire goal here is to go from being a passive victim of whatever's most convenient to becoming the active, intentional designer of your own habits. It's about taking back control.
And so that really just leaves us with one final practical question to think about. Looking at your own life, your goals, your defaults, what's one tiny 20-second barrier you could remove to make a good habit easier or add to make a bad one harder, starting today?